Mm-hmm. Show you one more quick hit, and I'm good to go. One for fun.
It's on. I guess YouTube just happens.
Yeah, there we go. This goddamn thing. Getting that soapy shit on my hands. Bada boom, bada boom. Boom, bada boom, bada boom. The dogs out of Erie, PA. Up on the water. How you doing? We good? We thinking about rolling?
We're rolling.
We are rolling. We are rolling. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Norman Nardini Alone Shevin. Alone but not unloved. And what I'd like to do for everyone today is I'd like to shoot the entire audience with a bubble gun. All right. Put your hands up. And don't give me no trouble. Everybody does what I say. Nobody gets hurt. How you like me now? You didn't like me before, did you? But when you saw me pull out that bubble gun, you went, that grease ball is out of his gourd. He's beautiful over here. I'd like to thank my lovely friend, Rimmel, for that particular bubble gun. And I know you're all out there saying, that ain't the first bubble gun that guy shot. But you'd be wrong. That is my first experience with a weapon of that nature. Yeah, man, let's get this party rolling. My fingers are sticky from bubble juice. Gonna get down to the get down. Everybody gonna be there. to the get down. Bring your style and flair. See you around at the get down. Well, when we get down to the get down, everybody gonna lose their blues. When we get down to the get down, bring your dancing shoes. Gonna get unwound at the get down. Well, if they get down, anything goes at the get down. Everybody knows that they get down. Ain't no rule that they get down. Play it cool, what goes round comes round. At the get down, when we get down to the get down, everybody coming out to play. When we get down to the get down, music gonna swing and sway to the soulful sounds at the get down. See you around at the get down. Hey, hey, well, at the get down. Hey, my name's Norman Roosevelt. Alois, Nicodeme, Amadei, Valentine, Giovan, Jerome, Brun, Graf. You will notice that I shortened all of my names. You know why? Because I have great concern for your schedule. And I know you're very busy out there. And I didn't want to make you go through having listening to every syllable of every name of the living legend. You know, my father-in-law, Gino, used to call me the living legend. And then he'd get this big smile on his hillbilly face. I love that. It's fantastic. Hey, welcome to Eastside Sound Studio. This is where we hang. Bought this building back when we had the Tigers years ago in the 80s. I don't know what you guys were doing in the 80s, but I'll tell you what I was doing. I was dragging my tight cakes from shithole to shithole, bringing it to the people. Bringing my men, and let me tell you something, my men gave me an award. All my musicians, they gave me a wonderful award. And it was the Cheap Motel Award. They said Norman can find the cheapest, shitbaggest hotel, motel, no matter where he goes. He knows where the worst hotel is, and he'll make sure that his band gets to stay there so that they can brag to their family. They didn't stay at the Hilton. They stayed at whatever. You know, I stayed at this one motel one time in Morgantown. And when we got to the room, we're going to fire up a couple numbers and socialize. And I noticed there were no ashtrays in the room. So I walked down to the lobby, and I says to this hilljack sitting behind the counter, I says, yo, we're in like room 27 or whatever, and there's no ashtrays in the room. He says, well, use a plastic cup. I says, dude, I don't want to burn down your building. And he goes like this, well, put some water in it. And I just give him the biggest smile, and I thought, my aching ass. Here I am at this. I've never been at a worse motel. And at that same motel one time, my buddy, Bobby Moore, who's passed on now, I've mentioned him before. He was a really amazing, great guy. And he was all about bowling. He actually, was on some tours and was a very high-level bowler. But he was older at this point anyway. So, but he would always try to turn me and my guys on the great bowling matches or whatever, or the intrigue of how exciting it is to watch bowling. And he was such a good guy, we just go along with it. And so one time he brought this video and he didn't have the player. And he says, I'm going to go down to the lobby and get us a VHS player or whatever it was. So he went down to the lobby with a buddy of his and this buddy of his wife's, who was a very pretty, very classy woman. And when they get down to the lobby, he asked the guy behind the desk if he could get a VHS player. And Bobby, my buddy, says to the guy behind the counter, he says, yeah, I brought a bowling video I want to turn everybody on to. And the guy behind the counter says, yeah, sure you did. And then he looks over at my buddy's beautiful and classy wife and he goes, yeah, sure you did. He thought she was a stripper and we were going to watch porno or something. It was like, no, dude, we're really going to watch bowling. And this woman was so embarrassed because she was actually very ladylike. And it was a great moment in time. Hey, we want to thank you for tuning in with us. This is number 7 for us. What do you think about that? Seven. How would you spell the number Sheven? S-H... Sheven. That would be Sheven. Yeah. S-H-E-V-E-N. Sheven. We're going to play some songs today. And I had one I picked out that I wanted to play. And I'll tell you right away what it is. It's a song I've done many times. I've probably done it on the Young series a couple times anyway. And on gigs I would do it every night because it's a song about my father. And Sunday is what? Father's Day, Cools. It's Father's Day. And I hope each and every one of you guys out there had a wonderful father. And if you didn't, maybe you were lucky enough to have a father figure in your life that helped you show you how men behave. And in the home and in the workplace. And how they function in society where a man, like my father. My father never wanted to put nobody out. My father never wanted to be trouble. My father never wanted to bring anybody down. And he taught me those kinds of things. My father never wanted to owe nobody a goddamn thing. You see what I'm saying? That's being a man. And he taught me that. And I have owed people things over the years, but when I did, I felt guilt. G-U-I-L-T. Guilt. If you can spell it, maybe you can feel it. But let's send a song out to Arthur, Lincoln, Andrew, Desio, Diomundo Nardini, the 4th child of Ernest and Minnie. 2 beautiful Italian Americans, both come over on a boat. Minnie, her name was Tambori. Her real name was actually Carmen Tambori. And she gave my father his life as she lay on her back on the kitchen table on Wheeler Street in Homewood Bruston. She pushed my father out right on the goddamn kitchen table. How beautiful is that? I love that story. I think my grandpa was there smoking a cigar talking about it. This was his first boy. He had 3 girls first. Annie, Elda, and Mary. And then my dad, Art, and then his little brother, Larry, who was a legendary character, who always would tell people that I was his son because I was the wildest of all the people. And usually when I was young, no matter where we went, I was the wildest guy around. And he would brag about that to everybody and say, that's my son right there. Meanwhile, he had 4 sons of his own at that time. And then later on, he had another son, Don. And he had 1 beautiful daughter, Suzanne. Hey, let's send this song out to the memory of my old man. I ain't no better than my daddy was, just a chip off that old block. From the simple way that he lived his life to the working class way he talked. Thought I knew better when I was a kid, but I was so wrong. Daddy let me make my own mistakes, standing by me all along. My old man was a one of a kind, and I get a smile on my face every time it comes to mind. The kind of man he was, that's the kind of man I need to be. And this here apple didn't fall far from the tree. I learned the things that my daddy knew the hard way, just like him. By going to work, never giving up and standing for something. Daddy said the devil doing dirty dollar bills and he gonna try and buy your soul. And I give up chasing that buck, Daddy didn't raise no fool. And my old man was a one of a kind, and I get a smile on my face every time it comes to mind. The kind of man he was, that's the kind of man I need to be. And this here apple didn't fall far from the tree. Sunday afternoon, still a game. I'll be hanging on every word he'd say, swearing at Bradshaw every time he threw it. I was learning who I was, and I didn't even know it. I ain't no better than my daddy was, and that's alright by me. Daddy stood tall, never seen him fall when I'd get up off his knees. Time goes by, I'm seeing him and me, more and more for sure. Growed up to be my father's son, right down to the core. And my old man was a one of a kind, always a smile on his face and a twinkle in his eye. The kind of man he was, that's the kind of man I'm gonna be. And this here apple, this here apple, this here apple didn't fall far from the tree, far from the tree. Hey Arturo, here's a kiss for you. If you were here, I'd shoot you with my bubble gun. The tree, sent out to my dad. You know, I saw a little video of myself last Saturday night, which was my birthday. I guess, you know, everybody makes some little videos on their cell phone, and they showed it to me as I was coming into this surprise party for me for my birthday. And when I looked at the video, I saw my father so much. It was so powerful. I didn't know I was him when I was a kid, but the older I get, the more I see how I've become this guy, Art, from Art's Auto Repair. That was the name of his garage, and he loved being there. Down in East Liberty, he was right across from a duck pin bowling alley. It was called Meadow Lanes, down on Denison Street in East Liberty. And right next door on one side of the other side of his garage, across the street was the duck pin bowling alley. One side of his garage was Eugene the Italian barber, and on the other side was Lou the Dairy Queen man. And Lou was a little bit younger than my dad, and he was a little bit, my dad wasn't a mover and shaker. Lou was like kind of handsome, he wore like gauchos and had this good looking old lady. Whoa! And she was one of the first women I ever saw when I was a, 11, 12-year-old boy. My dad would take me to the garage to work. And Lou's wife would stop to see, and she'd drive his Cadillac down to the Dairy Queen. And I would see her, and she'd come out of the car. And I remember just looking at her up and down going, she was like a, I don't know how to say, she just had all the stuff. She was like packed into her stuff. And as a little 10-year-old boy, I'm just looking at, my eyes were rolling around in my head. I'm going, yeah. Imagining wonderful things that little boys imagine. But she was one of the first women I ever saw that I went, va 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 voom. I guess that starts happening to little boys when they're about 11 or 12. They start getting urges. They start opening up and thinking about things that they shouldn't be thinking about. And I love that. Today, guys, we're going to do a little crazy stuff. We're going to get to, in a little bit, we're going to talk about writing songs. And we're going to, I'm going to play you a song I just wrote 6 days ago. And I'm going to play you a song that I've been writing over the course of 2 or 3 weeks here doing our show. They're called Hot Chihuahua. And both of these new, one's called Two Lives. The other one's called Hot Chihuahua. And when the songs are this young and developing like this, I don't usually bring them around people. But for what we're doing here, and I think it's cool to do it because it gives people a chance to see how the mind works to build these songs and build these characters and set these scenarios so that people just hear the song and they don't question it. But this way we're going to see how sometimes you write a song and then 2 weeks later you change the line or you change the angle. And that's what you do as a writer. And you know, when I was young, I would write songs in 10 minutes. And in fact, the one song today I wrote in 2 hours on Sunday, and we're going to play it shortly. But and we're also going to play a song I wrote years ago called America's Son. And it's a song about today's society, a young Native American, and his place in society, and his place in today's society is growing and selling high-level reefer. And it talks about that situation and how it makes sense, and how, you know, and it's like, and it talks of the hypocrisy of how many people has our government put in jail, and how many families have been broken up because men and women have been put in jail for dealing in the reefer business. But meanwhile, now our government is in the reefer business, and now it's cool, and now it's all okay. But all these years of people that have been criminalized for the activities of doing something that the government is now capitalizing upon. That's called, it's a word called hypocrisy. Do you know that word? I don't know much about it, but I'm learning it as I get older. We're going to do another song, and if you guys don't behave, because I can tell there's some of you guys out there that are just messing with each other. Some of you guys are out there using foul language. Some of you guys are out there doing things you shouldn't be doing. And you know what? If you keep up them activities, I'm going to shoot your ass with a bubble gun. Because I don't give a crap no more. That's how I roll. You hear me?
Mark Stutzo is watching.
Mark Stutzo is watching. Stutz! You are, you know, this is a great line for you. You'll love this line. I was talking to my crazy hunky neighbor the other day, and I was talking about my wife, and I says, you know, my wife Kathy, that hillbilly. And he says, she's got class. She's a Hill William. And I thought that was great. So Stutz, I think you're a Hill William as well. You know, Stutzo is a wonderful musician. Currently working with the Nighthawks out of D.C., one of America's, so that would mean one of the world's high-class blues bands, blues rock bands. You know, Mark Wenner is the leader of the band and has been in it the whole time, plays harp and sings, really well-respected American musician. And also sings and plays harp. And Mark Stutzo's a high-level singer and plays drums with the Hawks. And we did an album together years ago, about maybe 10 years. It was called Rock My Soul. Mark Stutzo's first solo record. And he cut 3 Times Your Fool on it. The Nighthawks again cut 3 Times Your Fool. So we're glad to have Mr. Stutzo in the house. And I think he's singing a couple Norman songs on the new Nighthawks album. And maybe he'll type in the name of the album so we can tell you guys. So if you were interested, you could pick it up. But on the new Nighthawks albums, they do I Hate a Nickel, because it ain't a dime. And they also do Something's Cooking. And on the last album, I think they cut, I know they cut 3 Times Your Fool. And I know they've cut Down to My Last Million Tears. I know they've cut Heartbreak Shake. So they've exposed a lot of people to Norman songs. And for that, I say, I'm a thank you so goddamn much. All right? Don't make me come over there and put a kiss right on your face. Because I'll do that and then give you a smack right on the shit can. Bang! That's one. And I'll do it. Because I don't give a crap no more about nobody. I was thinking about a song I was going to play. Now I can't remember it. Oh, okay. Here's another song. In fact, this is a song that I was working on Stutzo singing. And maybe one day he'll sing it again. Wrote it a few years back. And when I wrote it because I said something on stage about haves and have-nots. And after the gig, my keyboard player, Larry Seifer, said to me, he says, you know, when I was a little kid, Larry's parents were very straight. And Larry was a little bit left-sided and was yearning to find the rock and roll animal in his shorts. And he was talking to his parents, and his parents said to him, you know, Larry, there's two kinds of people in this world. The haves and the have-nots. And you don't want to be a have-not. But Larry, in his mind, as a little boy, was thinking, hey, Mom, I might want to be a have-not. He was thinking it. It was deep inside. And the best part is, all these years later, Larry has achieved have-nottedness. He has successfully become a have-notter. How you like him for that? But the one thing he does have that pisses me off, though, he plays that goddamn flute. You know, and I respect Larry's skills. I respect his experience. I respect his integrity. But when he pulls out that goddamn silver flout, I'm not a flute fan. I'll say it right now. I don't like the flute. I like a bass clarinet. I like a tromboner. Oh. But the goddamn flute, it ain't me. It ain't me. It never was. So me and Larry, I break his balls and then he breaks mine over such things as flout work. Check this one out. See how I do it. Some guys got it. Some guy never will. Some guy screaming nickel. Some make it rain $50 bills, and that's the way that it is. It's a little old lot, and you all got the haves, and you got the have-nots. Some guys are born with a silver spoon. Some want to stand in a welfare line. Some guys are sipping Dom Perignon, and some are slurping country moonshine, and that's the way that it is. It's a little old lot, and you all got the haves, and you got the have-nots, got the haves, got the have-nots, got the haves, got the have-nots, crowded at the bottom, lonely at the top. You got the haves, and you got the have-nots. Hey, there's a guy in a jetliner slipping down to the Gulf Coast shore. Another guy sloping in the back of a jitney on his way to the liquor store, and that's the way that it is. It's a little overlap, and you all got the haves, and you got the have-nots. You all might have $1 million. You all might be down on your luck. You might have showed up in a night in a Cadillac or a broke down pickup truck, and that's the way that it is. It's a little overlap, and you all got the haves, and you got the have-nots, got the haves, got the have-nots, got the haves, got the have-nots, crowded at the bottom, lonely at the top. You got the haves, you got the haves, you got the haves, and you got the have-nots. Hey, have-nots, have-nots. I'd like to send out to the memory of Larry Seifer's parents, who were haves, and they tried to make Larry into a have, but Larry wanted to be a have-not. And you know what? That's been good for us, and I think it's been good for us all, because Larry's gotten to play with all kinds of folks. You see him on a lot of those early Channel 13 doo-wop videos. One time I said over the microphone, you know, introducing Larry, I says, Larry Seifer's on keys and sax, and I says, and you'll see Larry on a lot of the doo-wop videos on Channel 13. And Larry said, but don't hold it against me, because he didn't think it was cool to play doo-wop stuff. But you know what? When you think about some of the music people are making today, I'll doo-wop with you. I come after the doo-wop era. I wasn't so much into the shoobies and the shooby-doobies. It's a little bit before my time. But some guys that were in that era was mighty hip. How about Jimmy Beaumont from right here in Pittsburgh? He was a high-level singer and a wonderful guy. How about the guy that sang 16 Candles? Johnny Maestro out of New Jersey. That greaseball. He's gone now. So is Jimmy. But what a singer he was. 16 Candles. And then he also became the lead singer of the Brooklyn Bridge. Remember they did that song, I heard you're getting married. Heard you're getting married. Johnny Maestro, he had a big schnozzle on him like a greaseball like this here. If he took a breath, he could suck in about, I don't know, about 18, 20 pounds on one suck of air. His lungs were like this big because his nose holes were usually about an inch and a half on each nose, each nostril, like a real wide, too, about a half-inch wide. And he'd suck in like this. You could just see his chest puff up. It's with all this oxygen. That's not a word, is it? But you know what I meant. Oxygen, which is good shit. You know, I heard you can't live without it. And there's another thing you can't live without. Love. You can't live without love. L-U-F. Love. That's how my cousin Larry would say the word love. He'd go, then he'd smile, go like he said, love. And he would sing a song that he wrote. Remember the movie Ghostbusters come out? Well, my cousin Larry wrote a song called Beef Busters. Beef. They don't use that word no more. It's a different time. They don't talk about beef. But Larry, he always talking about the beef. He said, I love beef. It was another time. It was a different time in America, a different time in life. You know, we've changed. We've evolved, right? How much have we evolved? Not really, not all that far. Not, you know, not when the lights go out anyway. Okay, guys. Let's talk about some songs. Let's talk about some songs. How about an Italian wearing a sport coat? What might have a bubble gun. See, this bubble gun is kind of like a man. You have to be real nice to it before it really works for you. It plays disco music and shoots bubbles. Are you kidding me? Tell your neighbors, tell your friends, Norman Nardini has a gun that plays disco music and shoots up bubbles. And then ask yourself the question, what's Norman really like? What's he all about? And then if you ask yourself that question, don't answer it, because I don't want to know the answer. Because I don't even know what the hell I'm all about. Okay. On this Sunday, me and the old lady were down in Mons. And we had a big party Saturday. And Sunday was just me and her at this little shack in the woods. And she started doing like artistic-y, artsy stuff, crafting, and we were going to just be home together all day. Maybe doing a little hot tub work later in the day. I don't know if you guys have ever read or heard or seen the infomercials about my hot tub work. But that's just for another story we'll talk about another day. But anyway, we're sitting at home, and so I started reading these books that are sitting around the cabin about hillbilly legends. And these guys from the 1800s, they were loggers, and they were miners, and they were drunkards, and they were animals, and they were bigger than life, and they became legends in that area. And so much so that they had books filled with little stories about each of these guys. And I was reading a story about one of the guys, and they said about the guy, they said, well, talking about how great he was and how much tougher and badder and stronger than all the other men. And then it said, he lived 2 lives for the price of 1. And I read that line. And as soon as I read that line, I just went, okay, 2 lives for the price of 1. So I put the book down and I says, what does that line mean to me? And I started writing a little this and a little that. And I tried a couple approaches, treatments, like people that know things. I've heard them use the word treatments. I've never used it before. And you don't have to worry, I'll never use it again. But they, so I started writing some angles on 2 lives for the price of 1. And the first couple angles I tried were cool, but they didn't seem easily accessible to get to the finish line. And I thought, well, let me try some other angles and see what I can come up with. So I tried 2 or 3 angles. I took our goddamn Chihuahua for a walk. And while we were walking, I started coming up with a couple little, very simple, almost childlike lines. And not the lines that you would think a writer would use to pull out a high-level piece of music. In other words, I wasn't trying to accomplish too much. I wasn't trying to make this into some masterpiece, because I know making masterpiece takes months sometimes. So I said, let me see what I can do with it. So I wrote a few lines down, and within about 2 hours, I had a song, and I'd like to play it for you now. And I wish I could say I knew all the words, because I don't like to read words, but I'm going to have to do that this time, just because it's such a new piece of music. And these words might change a little bit. So give me a second here, and we're going to play it for you. It's a song I just put together, and it's called 2 Lives, and then in parentheses, for the price of 1. But I won't even put the parentheses in there, because I think that's bullshit. That ain't me. Parentheses? I don't even like saying the word. Didn't feel right coming out of my face. Okay. I'm strapping it on, boss! I was thinking today, I go from one thing to the next, right? I talk shit. I was talking to my lovely assistant Tom about the greatest men of all time, the most memorable, the men that stood the tallest. And I just made a short list of them. And one of them was Jackie Gleason. Another one was Jack Nicholstone. How about Jack Nicholson? Was he the coolest guy ever? These are guys that are just bigger than life. In his own way, Willie Nelson. Johnny Cash. Okay, let's get back to this song. I might have to put on my old man glasses to bring it to you. It's a song called 2 Lives. Oh, I got the wrong guitar. And very simply written. And it's written to a form that I've written, and to a rhythm that I've written 1,000,000 times. I've probably written, it's one of them. That kind of rhythm, I was writing them songs in the 70s. I think the first one I wrote like that was Ready Freddy. Maybe it wasn't, but at that time, that's what was up. Okay. I'm going to try and see what I got here. 2 Lives. hate good luck. I hate bad. I've been happy. I've been sad. Done some laughing. There's tears I've cried. Spoken truth. Told some lies. I lived 2 lives for the price of 1. Laid with angels, with the devils I run. Wake up in the morning like I'm shot out of a gun. I live 2 lives for the price of 1. I sunk low, I stood tall, run like the wind. There's times I've crawled, rolling a punch, stood my ground, been knocked out, and I come around. I live 2 lives for the price of 1. Laid with angels, with the devil I run. Wake up in the morning like I'm shot out of a gun. I live 2 lives for the price of 1. 2 lives taken and given. Never been accused of lie without living. I've been in the shadows, I've been in the clear, far away. I've been in, I've been down, I've been up, been thirsty, drank from a full cup. I've been healthy, and I've been ill, done some dancing, and I stood still. I want it all, and I've been denied. I've been horny, and I've been satisfied. Oh, ba-boom! Come on, you hunter! Give me something! You're making me look bad. Goddamn thing. Just like me, shooting blanks. I live 2 lives for the price of 1. Lay with angels, with the devil I run. Woke up in the morning like I'm shot out of a gun. I live 2 lives, and that ain't no job. I live 2 lives for the price of 1. Hey, hey! 2 lives. 2 lives for the price of 1. An instant song. I wasn't trying to change the world. I wasn't trying to write the best song I ever wrote. I wasn't obsessing about the details, the meaning, the depth of what I was doing. I was just riffing. Just, you know, and I don't know that I ain't saying that that's a great song, but I am saying that there's some great songs that are written that way and with that mentality. And that's perfectly legit. And that's rock and roll. I mean, so, and now I'm going to play a song that was much more thought out and planned out. And this song, I mentioned it a moment ago, is about, I have a soft spot in my heart for Native Americans. Other minorities in our country have a voice, and on a regular basis, we're being, as Americans, being reminded of inequities that have been, we've all lived with as Americans. The Native Americans don't really have anyone on a regular basis or any way to get the word out of who they are and who they were and how much they mean to America. And for some reason, it always just sticks in my mind how important these people are and how important it is for us to someday come to terms with the reality of who they are, who they really are, not who we tell people are, not who we've been told as little kids who they are, but who they really are. And once again, it all goes back to a simple thing that, we all can, that our parents tell us. Everybody's beautiful. My parents would say that to me. Everybody's somebody. Everybody's important. And that's basic. I was taught that as a little boy. And the older I got, the more I knew what that meant. And I don't like to talk about heavy shit, so I'll shut the F up right now. But let's do a song that talks about a guy living in our country today, Native American, and I call him in the song America's Son, and that's the name of the song. And I haven't done this song in years, so and it's a finger-picked number, so which isn't my forte. We're doing these shows. We're in our 7th, 15th hour or something of putting these together. And the thing that I guess I made my name doing was playing the electric guitar. And we don't even do it on these Norman Nardini alone shows. So how crazy is that? I don't know. Okay, try this on. Living life that's charming, slanging and farming, and rambling around these roads. Got hottest homegrown green in the back of my limousine, up in these hills that I call home. Granddaddy taught my father about seed, earth, and water supply and demand. Know every bend in the road, sleep with one eye closed if you wanna stay one step ahead of the man. My daddy got me started before he departed. Now I'm out here on my own, headed for the state line, just taking my time, 'cause county boys roll up and down this road. And I'm America's son, living off the land, getting it done, turning green to green. You never heard no one. My folks was here before the country begun. I'm America's son. My people are living on stats they were given by the Christians who took their land away. And those who judge me, I hope they don't begrudge me, 'cause my people already paid. Now you've got your corporations and their secret situations, dirty deals behind closed doors. And if you strip them all naked, you'd see ain't nothing sacred when you got everything, but you still want more. Now my funds are depleted, never took more than I needed, just like my father before me done. I found some harmony in this hypocrisy. I'm just living the dream. I'm America's son. I'm America's son, living off the land, getting it done, turning green to green. Never heard no one. My folks was here before the country begun. I'm America's son. Hey, America's son. Well, America's son. America's son. That's a song that took much longer to write, and I was trying to accomplish a lot more than the two live songs that took 2 hours to write. This one here took much longer, and a lot of thought, and because it's a story song, and the character in it, I was trying to create a character that we could all have, not sympathy, but have respect and understanding of, you know, the who this person turned out to be and what they did and how they did it and why they did it. It was brought down in his family because it was part of the earth, which was part of the way the Native Americans, that was their religion. They thought the tree was their brother. And you know what? I kind of do too. You know, I don't know. Maybe I'm a nut. Hey, I hope you guys are doing good out there today. And I want to thank you for tuning in. This is our 7th Norman Nardini Alone. And what the hell are we trying to do with this show? I mean, what... if anybody out there knows anybody that's doing anything like what we're doing at this moment and over the past couple months, let me know, because I'd like to see if anybody is doing anything like what we're doing, because I've watched some other folks that are live streaming things, and but I haven't seen anyone that's really trying to get up your skirt like I am. I'm trying to stick a hand up there and monkey around a little bit. That's how I do. Hey, one of the things I wanted to talk about today. Hang on, I'm going to get my stool here. There we go. My friend Tom's here. My lovely assistant. He doesn't speak much, but I feel him. I feel his presence. Tom, don't answer if you don't feel this. You can't. If I'm asking too much. I see his face getting all jolly and happy. Here's what I wanted to talk about. You've all heard me do a song in the past couple months that I just wrote this year called Young. And I was really good at being young. About guys like me, songs are sung. Once again, me bragging about myself. I wanted to talk about being young and some cool shit that happened when I was young. And you guys inside, if you would, think back to when you were 18. Okay, here's you. If you made it through high school, if you didn't, you know, a lot of my people weren't the people that made it through high school, if you know what I'm saying. These are my people. But luckily, my mom, not luckily, but my mom pushed me through high school. If it hadn't been for her, I would have never made it. I did it strictly because it was important to her. But about 2-3 weeks, I think it was at the last week or in the 20s of June, 1968, I was playing with a guy at the time, a guitar player from Wilkinsburg. We call it Wilkinsburg, named Marty Brown. And he was a badass guitar player. And we lived together for a time, not in the next year. But at the time we were playing together, and Marty, and I wasn't real hip. I didn't know a lot about a lot of stuff. Marty was, I think, my age. Marty didn't make it past 9th grade, I don't think. But anyway, he knew about things and trendy things and things that were happening in rock and roll, because he bought rock magazines or whatever or newspapers. But he would know things that I just didn't know. I wasn't into that scene. So anyway, I was working with a guy that was teaching me and showing me a rock and roll mentality that I didn't have, because he was much more trendier and knew what was going on. He knew when a guy got a haircut, you know what I mean? Or for somebody, you know, a guy played Les Pauls, put on a Stratocaster, he'd tell me about it. You know, those kinds of things he was hip to. So anyway, I get out of high school. Within 2 weeks, me and Marty are talking, and it's like, we look at each other, and it's like, dude, it was one of those now or never moments. And I don't know if you guys out there in the intranet land did this, but we looked at each other and was like, well, it's now or never. It's 1968. So in other words, what was the name of the Monterey? Monterey happened in 67. So it was, Monterey had already happened, and he was all up on that stuff. And I didn't really know that much about it. I didn't follow things like he did. So anyway, we looked at each other and we started talking. It was like, you know what? Here's what we got to do. Me and you, we got to get out to San Francisco. We're going to get there. That's where we belong, because that's where it's happening. He's telling me these things, and I'm believing him, because he was a hell of a guitar player, and he was very showy. And he was a showman, and a good guitar player, and a good guy. So we decided we're going to go to San Francisco, 1968. The first thing we did, and we didn't tell nobody. You know what I mean? We didn't tell. I didn't. Well, he didn't have a father. He lived with his mom, and he like I say, he had already been out of school for a couple of years. He quit school after 9th grade, I think, and was pretty much, he was on his own at 15 or 16, literally. So anyway, we decided we're going to go to San Francisco. I had a couple of dollars. He had a couple of dollars, and we bought a ticket on a Greyhound, and we went to Cleveland. Greyhound took us to Cleveland, and we got off the bus, and it was kind of evening. And when we got off the bus, we saw a couple girls that looked hip, and you know, we started talking to them, and we were telling them, they were going, "Where are you guys from?" "We're from Pittsburgh." "Where are you going?" "We're going to San Francisco to be rock stars." And these chicks didn't seem weird to them at all. Well, it was Cleveland, and I didn't know at the time that Cleveland was very much a rock and roll city. I found that out later. But they said, "Where are you staying tonight?" And we said, "We don't know. We don't have anywhere to stay. We're homeless." So the girl said, "Look, if you'd want, you could come and sleep in our yard. I think my parents wouldn't mind if you slept in our yard." And so that's what we did. We went to these girls' house in the suburbs, and just hung out and talked a little bit and stuff. And then after it got later, they went in the house and went to bed, and me and Marty slept in their yard, and were attacked by mosquitoes and bugs, and it was miserable. But we did it. We got through the night, and then in the morning we said goodbye to the girls and thanked them for, giving us a place to hang. And we started thumbing, and we thumbed from Cleveland to Columbus. We didn't know where we were. We were up this way and down this way. We were supposed to go out here, but we were going like this. Really didn't know a goddamn thing. So now we're in Columbus, Ohio. It's in the afternoon. The two of us, and we both had long hair, what passed for long hair at the time. And Columbus wasn't a rock and roll city. I mean, there were rockers there, but it wasn't like Cleveland. So we're standing on the interstate. Cop pulls us over. Pulls over and walks up to us and says, "What are you just doing here?" Says, "You're not allowed to thumb on the interstate." "Oh, we're sorry." And he says, "Let me see your ID. Where are you going?" "We're going to San Francisco to be rock stars." And the cop says, "Hey, guys, I'm going to have to arrest you." And I said, "What for?" He said, "For vagrancy." And I says, "What does that mean?" He says, "That means you don't have any money." And I said, "I had $50. And he says, "Well, that's not enough to not have any money." And he said, "We're taken in." They took us to downtown Columbus, to the jail. In the downtown, they threw me and my buddy in the jail. It was the first time I was ever in jail. And when we were in jail, that's, we called home. I called home. And my dad drove out and picked us up and drove us back to Pittsburgh. And once again, This was the second time my dad had to drive and pick me up from somewhere. The first time I ran away when I think I was in 7th or 8th grade. But this was, I wasn't running away because I had just turned 18. So, but we went, and my dad picked us up and took us home. And once again, my mother told my dad to take me downstairs and scrub me off with lye soap, because being in that goddamn jail, you never know what I'm bringing back into this house. And I hope everybody watching our Alone show today has a story like that, because I think those kinds of stories are, if you get as old as I am now and you don't have any of those kinds of stories, I think you missed out. Those kind of stories are like how you learn right from wrong, and how you learn how you if you never did that kind of shit, and you're this old or older and you never did that stuff, I think, aren't you thinking that you want to stick out your thumb and go to San Francisco and be a rock star? I mean, Tom, am I just saying?
I do.
Yeah, you get it, right? But you're a guy that, I'm sure you were in jail once or twice. I'm not going to make you say it, but I'm guessing that you've assumed the position once or twice. I always say on gigs, I love saying this on gigs, I always say, hey, I want everybody in this shithole to know I have never once been in jail in Pennsylvania. Then I give them a big smile and they go, you guy, I slapped the shit out. Get the hell out of here. A crazy story. Okay, let's play a song. Let's go back to this songwriting thing, and I'm going to play you another song. And this is a song that I started writing. Before we did our last live stream, I think the night before, or 2 nights before, I had a dream. And in the dream, I was talking about the term Hot Chihuahua came up. And I wanted to write a song as I was sleeping called Hot Chihuahua. And as I woke up, I'm struggling with things and ins and outs and do's and don'ts of putting this thing together. And I wake up and here I am. All I have is the term Hot Chihuahua. And so I wrote some shit down, and I think the last live stream we did, I read those words. And they were written fairly instantly. And since that time, I've had a chance to look at those words. I didn't write any music whatsoever last time. I hadn't written it at all. This time, I started feeling with those simple words I wrote. A lot of times when you're writing, you write things and then you take a couple of days and you look at it and you go, oh, now I see where this can go. And the doors that I didn't open when I first started these thoughts on this particular subject. And so you can take a few of the lines and a few of the things that you're doing and change them around, and now it starts making sense. Now you're building these characters and you're building the storyline. And that's what I'm doing here. And I want you guys to see it. Watch how it's done. And I'm going to sing you this song. I'm writing Hot Chihuahua. And I want you to know when I sing it, it's only, I only have, maybe 10 hours into it or something. And it's probably going to change again if I even bother to continue to mess with it. But I want you to see what you think of it. And now, so what I've done is, I've taken Hot Chihuahua, wrong guitar. Hot Chihuahua is the star of the song's name. It's a guy's name, and it's also the name of his act. And when I wrote, I think I mentioned this before. I had mentioned Hot Chihuahua, and me and my old lady were watching Jerry Springer one day, and there was a girl on there, and her name was Lala. And I said to her, I says, you ever know any bitches named Lala? And she says, well, there's one girl on one of the Housewives show named Lala. And so anyway, in the song, I made Lala be Hot Chihuahua's chick. And that's part of what this is. So, and then when I first wrote it, I was rather directionless. And now I found the direction for it. Now, Hot Chihuahua and Lala are a song and dance team. Tom's laughing. They're a song and dance team. You know, you have to be.
Come a long way in 2 weeks.
Yeah, but I don't know if we took the right road. But check it out and see what you think of it. And like, I might shit can the whole goddamn thing, because. But then again, and another thing I want to say about it is, after I put it all together and I started putting music to it and all that shit, it started reminding me of something that you'll remember. It started reminding me of a Tony Orlando song. He gave me, I just got to look there. Tony Orlando and Dawn was a hit act in the 70s that all us rock and roll people thought was, hey, bullshit. You know, there was a song called Knock 3 Times, another one, Tie the Yellow Ribbon Around the Old Oak Tree. Story songs. And actually, all these years later, looking back on them, very well written and actually unique pieces of music. And so this song that I'm going to play now has a little bit of a Tony Orlando and Dawn song involved in it. Hey, and anyway, if Tony, if you're watching and you're looking for some new material, and they're them old bitches from and Dawn, I don't know if they're hitting the Vegas stage with you anymore, but their daughters are, no, their granddaughters are up there with you now. With your toupee and your girdle, God bless you. Tony Orlando, actually, I never thought he was much of anything, but now the more I think about him, I actually think he's all right. All right. I might screw this up. And if I do, we're going to laugh about it together. I'm not going to show any shame. See what you think. Hot Chihuahua and his girl Lala was headed down to Mexico. This song and dance team ran out of steam somewhere outside of Laredo. Chihuahua sang of his love for Lala. Lala moved the hips to and fro. And from the music that they made, all the locals paid, and now they're out in Vegas putting on a show. And the singing, Hot Chihuahua, Hot Chihuahua, Lala, do that sexy dance. Hot Chihuahua, singing songs of romance. How do you like it so far? Tony, are you listening? I should have brought my Tony Orlando mustache. Hot Chihuahua and his girl Lala was a hit out on the strip, but they lost all their cash, gambled the stash, so they took that Rio Grande trip. Chihuahua rose above that drama. Lala kept dancing up a storm. Now they're hitting Tijuana, playing anywhere they wanna, and you should see the two of them perform. Has the singing, Hot Chihuahua, Hot Chihuahua, Lala, do that sexy dance. Hot Chihuahua, singing songs of romance. The songs that they sung spoke of a love never ending. So deeply in love, now the rest of their lives they're spending up on the stage. Everywhere they go, they're the rage. Oh, and the singing, Hot Chihuahua, Lala, do that sexy dance. Hot Chihuahua, singing songs of romance. And they're singing, Hot Chihuahua, you know Lala love him so. Hot Chihuahua and Lala, always putting on a show. Hi, I'm Tony Orlando. These girls are Dawn. Welcome to the Vegas Strip. What do you think? Nice, right? Hot Chihuahua. A story song. Uh, is it any good? I don't know. I ain't gonna tell you it's great because I don't know that it is, but I know that it functions, and it also puts a smile on your face. And the one thing I regret about this particular number is I wanted to get the line in there that said, Hot Chihuahua, Hot Chihuahua, Lala do that sexy dance, Hot Chihuahua, in his tight pants. I couldn't get the line tight pants in there. And I really wanted to. So as a songwriter, I failed on that count. But I think as a songwriter, I did okay creating the characters and creating a romantic mood and interplay between the characters and the story of their lives. So, but is it a great song? Nah. Is it a good song? I think it is. But you know what? If I tool around with it and I decide to mess with it longer, you know, take the melody and tighten it up a little bit, maybe tighten up a few words and get some new perspectives. All these things are small. You know, a couple words here and there, but they come to you when you start. I call it, like when I'm working on a song, I'll say, let me pull this song's pants down and see what it has in its shorts. And when you pull the pants down, you get a real good look at what makes it tick. And if you have the time and you're compulsive and crazy enough to go into the details, which takes hours, and you know another things it takes? Being alone. And it takes a big D. When I say big D, the D stands for douche. Brain douche. You douche your brain out of all the bullshit that we all have about paying bills, about your old lady, about your vehicle, about what's going on TV, what's going on in our country. You douche all that shit out of there, and now you have walking the avenues of cleanliness that can lead you to the details that help take this song that I think is okay. I could maybe make it great by douching my brain out and taking that cleanliness and applying it to the characters and the storyline, and maybe take it up a little level. A couple, 2-3 little tweaks, it would go from a C plus to a B minus, to a B, to a B plus. And then, as a music person, if you take that piece of, that hunk of meat there, and I douche it up, and I take it from a C plus to a B minus, and then I get the right singer. And then I put the right track underneath it. And then underneath that track, we detail it. And we do an arrangement, and there isn't one goddamn note wasted. Not one note out of place. And have the right vocalist singing it. Now you take that B or B plus, and maybe you take it to an A minus. Do you know what I'm saying? So all those little things are factors in developing product and developing material. And I don't think a lot of folks are talking about those things to rock and roll fans or music fans that have an interest in how do you do it. You know, like when we watch movies, no one ever tells us about the writing of the movie, or you know, what was I thinking, or how did it get there? How did we create this fictional thing? And how long did it take us to tweak it there? And you know, what was the starting goal, and what did we discover is the end goal? Because as you go, if you're doing your work right and you're detailing it right, you're always lifting. You're creating little wings that lift you up and lift your piece of material up. And as you keep doing that, you keep reaching higher. And that's part of songwriting. And songwriting is one thing, but producing music is another. So when you combine the songwriting and the production is putting it together, getting the right arrangement, getting the right singer, getting the right instrumentalists, and cutting all that shit. And that's a way to the treatment of these pieces of material. And how great is that, right? What a great way to spend a goddamn day. Ain't no better way. I see my bubble gun sitting there. You know what? I better not carry that. I'm going to have somebody carry that gun out of here because I don't want to get arrested. Maybe we'll play a song on the keys. Speaking of songs that, I'm going to do you a song that I wrote a few years back. And I've talked about, the reasons I wrote it. I don't want to mess with that today. But I do want to remind you that a friend of mine, a very good friend of mine in fact, Mike Vale, was the original bass player in Tommy James and the Shondells. And the Shondells, all those guys were from Scottdale, which is right outside of Pittsburgh. And Tommy James was from Michigan. But the record broke here in Pittsburgh, and it broke in teenage dances. Pittsburgh had a great teenage dance scene. And one day we're going to talk about it. And there was the clubs called the White Elephant, the Lebanon Lodge, the teen scene, the Blue Goose or something in Monongahela. I can't remember it all. I have to go back and look at my notes from back when I was a kid. But we're going to talk about all those things and all the acts that came to town. I'll tell you the story about the time I was hired to pretend I was in a band called the Sonics, and told to not talk to anybody. Don't go out from backstage. Just get on, play your songs. You do a half-hour set, and then you get backstage. Don't speak to anybody, and then get in a goddamn limo and go to the next gig. And he was selling people that the Sonics were there, but the Sonics were from Seattle, Washington. They weren't there. It was me and a couple guys from Philadelphia. But anyway, I wrote this song, and I wasn't even finished writing it, and I played it for a friend of mine, Mike Vale. And Mike was working on his first solo record. And he says, hey, you mind if I cut that? I said, it isn't done. He said, do you mind if I cut it? And I says, okay, I guess it is done. So Mike put it on his first record, and I'm going to play it for you now. And when I wrote it, I wanted to touch on the sensibilities of the song that Louis Armstrong sang years ago called What a Wonderful World. And what a wonderful song, right? And this is my attempt at writing a song that gives a nod to that, what that song was trying to tell us. See what you think. If I screw it up, it's only because I suck as a keyboard guy. But that's another subject. There's a mountain stream trickling down to a rumbling river, ocean bound, with rippling waves and a toe pooling under. We're living in a world with all its wonder, under a yellow sun, in a pale blue sky, a couple gray clouds just drifting by. And a minute ago it was rain, lightning and thunder. We're living in a world with all its wonder. The wonder of it all, four winds blow. The wonder of it all, the colors of the rainbow. We're living in a world with all its wonder. song. Gonna harvest it come early fall. In the warm spring ground, gonna plant that seed under. We're living in a world. Living in a world. We're living in a world with all its wonder. 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 Oh, I just thought of something. In the middle while I was playing it, when Mike Vell cut this song, I went out to play guitar on it, and Stutzo, who had been watching earlier, I don't know if he's still with us, but played drums on the version that Mike Vell did. So it's kind of cool, right? And I can't remember the name of the album of Mike's that it was on, but he has 2 solo records that came out in a couple years ago. The first of the 2 is the one that Wonder is on. And Wonder is also on my record, Notorious. How you like that? Notorious. Norman Nardini. He's so... Oh, you're so notorious, Norman. You just are. Tom? Are you with me? How are you feeling today?
I'm feeling just fine.
You came in from Erie? Did you have to deal with any of the them ice balls they say are supposed to fall from the sky today? They didn't
No ice balls falling from the sky.
Oh, okay. Are you disappointed that you didn't get any?
No.
Not at all? Okay. I thought you might have been pelted. I'm trying to think of the name of that stuff. It's not sleet. Hail. Hail.
None of that.
I was going for that word, hail.
We get plenty of stuff falling from the sky in December, January, February.
Erie, the bad weather belt. Hey guys, I always do this every show, and I'm going to do it right now. Download this music, Norman music, whole LPs or single tracks, and you can I think they're like 80 or 90 cents, and you can get a whole album LP for under $10 on Amazon or iTunes. And the albums that we have available are Notorious, Bonafide, Redemption, It's Alive, Breakdown in Paradise, and This Old Train. And I send this thought out to my friend Larry Germaxel Rose. And then I always think about Axl Rose, and I always wanted to kick his ass. I just wanted to throw that redheaded guy a beating. I was thought, come out all red-haired, singing all high-pitched and shit. I'm going to give you a boot right in your... Get over here! You're in Pittsburgh! Oh, L.A. out of your mind. Come on. I'll give you a goddamn slap. Okay, good thing I'm not nuts, right? I got some other songs I'm going to do for you. But before I do, I'm going to go back to something we were talking about before. And that is being young. That same summer that I mentioned, 1968, when Marty Brown and I got thrown in jail in Cowtown, Ohio. A couple months later, actually, yeah, it was right around the same time. Me and a bunch of they called us heads in the '60s, freaks and heads. That's what they called us. It was all squares. I mean, everybody was just so straight, and the guys and the people that I was hanging out with, we were I guess they would use the word counterculture. We were the people that were looking to. We were actually not naive enough to think that the world could change, and that, and with the world changing, people could change, and you know what's crazy? I still have that much innocence left in my charred and burned to a crisp body. Somehow I've maintained an innocence. But back in this time, what we would do, me and my buddies, there was a time Not far. It's on the east side, and not far from where I live. Maybe about 6 or 7 miles. It's called Oakmont, and that's where long hairs and guys like us, we could meet, and we wouldn't get beat up or chased out of town because they were sympathetic to our ways, and they had their own locals that were long hairs and were counterculture people. So we would all meet in Oakmont a lot. It was guys from where I was from, Churchill or Wilkins Township, guys from where my studio is now, Swissvale, Oakmont, Verona, Penn Hills. A lot of the guys were from Penn Hills. And we were all around the same age, 17, 18, 19, 20. And we were all either going to Vietnam, going to college. Me, I was becoming a rock star. And a few of us were. A few of us were already confirmed musicians. And what we would do, we would all meet in Oakmont. And we would drop acid. And then, this is great. And there'd be like 12, 15 of us maybe, all guys, all in the same age group, all long hairs. And what we'd do, we would take acid at the Oakmont Library, right out in front of the street. And then we would walk up this mile-long hill. And once we got to the mile-long hill, there was like a park and woods. And we would walk through the woods and through the park. And then we would go across this little stream of water. And there was like a side of a mountain, not a mountain, but a hill, like a steep hillside. And on that steep hillside was caves. And we would walk up, and it took us, almost an hour to get up there. 40 minutes or anyway. And by the time we got there, a lot of us were just starting to get off on the acid. And we'd all get to the caves. And by this time also, it would be getting dark. And we would spend the night in the caves. And we would talk about going to college. Most of us weren't. I would say just, probably out of 15 or 12, maybe 1 or 2 were college bound. Most were bound for their service. And some of the others were just, going to get local jobs, driving trucks and mechanics, whatever, working class people. And but we'd all get off around the same time. And we all knew we were going to be together all night. And it was just and we all knew that we were at this stage of life. When you're at that age, there's you, and then there's a question mark. And that question mark signifies the rest of your life. You know what I mean? And so you're... and the good thing about what we were doing was we were all us, and we all had a question mark beside us. Who were we going to be? How's it going to go? And we would just sit there and talk about it. And I remember at the time, I was probably one of the most innocent of the guys. I had my parents sheltered me pretty good, and I like I say, I've told stories about the craziness of the things I did, but the people I was hanging with had more craziness and more experience in them. And I remember the first time I went to the caves, they were all breaking my balls, and most of them were a little bit older than me. And so they take us, we go up, and I didn't know there were caves. We just went to a cave. And so we're sitting in a cave, and we're telling stories. And these sons of bitches, my buddies, what they did was they would sneak away from the cave where we were all sitting, on the edge, and we're looking out over the woods. And what they would do, they would sneak away, and they would go into another cave and crawl through that cave and come out of the cave that we were in from the inside. And they did it to me to scare the living shit out of me, and to see how I would react to just totally being freaked out by, we're sitting in the cave and now something comes crawling out of the cave. And no one had gone down there, so I didn't know what was crawling out. They all knew that I was going to break my balls and scare the shit out of me. So I remember they did that to me, and it was just like really cool to be that scared and be with guys that, we were all friends, but they knew that we were having fun. We were doing what guys did. it was just a great time. And I remember one night we did it, and when we got there, it started snowing. So we're all high up on acid. And you know how when it snows, it's not all that cold? It's kind of like around 32. And so it's kind of like actually great weather. So we weren't uncomfortable, and we're watching the snow come down. And we all kind of, towards the end of the dark, we all kind of like fell asleep for a little bit, maybe half an hour, maybe an hour, maybe an hour or two. And then we all woke up at the same time. And when we woke up, it was light. And we could just see the whole woods was white. And we were all high on LSD. It was fantastic. You know, it's just like opening it up and seeing that and all the colors of the white and the woods and the night. I mean, it was a great time, you know. And the reason I'm telling a story like this is I'm hoping that the folks who are watching have those kinds of stories that they maybe forgot about in their lives. You know, they did things like that as teenagers or in their early 20s, and then life takes over and you forget about it, and you don't get to do things like that anymore. You don't have time or don't have space in your life. But I always think back to those things, and sometimes I get to see the guys. I got a buddy sometimes that watches some of these streams, Tommy Ritter. We always call each other, "Hey, caveman," and there was like a brotherhood. And the sad thing is that a few of those guys, you know, didn't get back from Vietnam. Some of them got back and had developed drug problems and lost their lives through that. And so there's not a lot of us left all these years later. 50-some years later. Another thing that happened around the same time, that gang expanded with women. They weren't women, they were girls. And other communities and other types of characters were involved. And what we did was, we didn't do it, I was just a part of it. There's an island in the Allegheny River in Cheswick by the railroad bridge, by the Tarentum Turnpike exit. And there's a dam there, and right at the end of the dam is this island in the river. And so what these guys, the guys that were older than me, they organized this party on the island. And so in other words, we had to take a boat to get to the party. And when we got to the party, it was just on the island in the middle of the river. It was an all-night party, and it was and they had beer, which I didn't have a whole lot of experience with. So I guess there's probably maybe 50 or 60 of us on this goddamn island. And then we went out to the island on a boat, 3 and 4 at a time. That's how we got there. And we got on the island, and there was, you know, maybe 40, 50 of us, and we're all drinking beer and getting crazy, and people start taking their clothes off, and, you know, we're teenagers. And I started drinking beers, and I had no experience with drinking beer, so I started acting like a nutbag, and as did everybody else. And I remember I woke up in the morning. I never got off the island. The reason I didn't get off the island was the boat sank that we took out on the island. So, and the only way to get off the island was to climb a 200 feet tall railroad bridge, and that would take you off the island. And I'm afraid of heights, and so I never got off. And plus, I was shit-faced drunk. I was, you know, room spinning around. I woke up in the morning. I didn't have my pants. How you doing? I think I found them in a tree or something. And then there was no goddamn boat. I'm on an island by myself. You know, the sun's shining, it's bright out. I'm wake up, I wasn't really hungover. I don't remember being hungover. But I'm on this goddamn island, half naked, found my pants, and I'm thinking, how do I get off this goddamn island? I gotta get off. And I was still not gonna climb a 200-foot railroad bridge. Because once you climb the bridge, then you had to walk the railroad tracks to get to the land. I wasn't doing it. So what I did was, I found a real big log. And since this island was right by the dam, the river was stopped, and the water wasn't going real fast. And it wasn't real deep at that point because at the dam they just let it out so much so the water was deep but not terribly deep, and it didn't move terribly fast. So I got my clothes on and I got on this log and I, laid on the log and paddled with my feet and my hands to get to the shore. And the other thing is, it wasn't like going all the way across the Allegheny because it's an island, so you only had so far to go to get to the shore. And so I did that, and I straddled the log and paddled my way across and got to the shore. And then I walked like 6 or 7 miles home. And when I got home, my parents were so goddamn mad at me. And but it was worth it. All the yelling that they did. I think my mom made my dad beat me with a broom. But he didn't really want to beat me with a broom. He knew that that's what boys did. My mother didn't quite understand that. So my dad took me down to the basement, acted like he was kicking my ass. But he wasn't. And I hope you guys did some shit like that. Woke up. Where's my pants? Where am I? Oh, I'm on a goddamn island naked, half naked. And no boat to get off the island. Those are, that's living. And that's those are the things that help build you into, becoming somebody, man. I love it. Hey, let's do a song. I'm going to move this thing out here. Let's ask Tom if anybody in the world is watching what we're doing today, Tom. Do you think there's anybody out there looking at us?
People are watching.
There's
40 people watching right now.
Okay.
I'm having a little trouble.
Tom said
People are saying it's breaking up a little bit.
Oh, okay. Tom said a little earlier that today is the first. We just moved to broadcasting this onto the Norman Nardini music site on Facebook, and he said today is the first time that we've simultaneously. That's a big word, right? Simultaneously, we're broadcasting on YouTube at the same time. Are we still doing that?
We're not.
Oh, we're not. We tried it.
That was pilot error.
Okay, we had pilot error.
That's my fault. I'm going to try it again.
You know what? We're going to love him anyway.
That's right.
Because
he needs love. Everybody.
Who don't?
Love.
Who don't? We all need love. Love. Like I told you, my cousin Larry used to say, "Love," L-U-F. Let's do a song. I was going to do this one last week, and I didn't. And this is a song that Mark Stutzo sang on his first solo album, Rock My Soul, on Moondog Records, and also the Nighthawks cut later with Stutzo singing, probably about 4 or 5 years ago. They did a version of it. And Stutzo sings the living crap out of this goddamn hunk of meat. I'm going to give you what I got. But when I wrote it, I always thought of guys like Stutzo singing it. And I thought of it like that song by Percy Sledge, When a Man Becomes a Woman. When a Man Loves a Woman. Big hit in the 60s. Loved that song. And when I wrote this, I was channeling Percy Sledge. I think he passed away just a couple years ago. And I know a lot of young people in the 60s, when that song would come on, and a boy and a girl would be sitting in the back of the car, kissing each other's lips, groping each other's frames. Maybe a guy gets a little bit of nerve up and slips a hand on a shirt, cups a little bit of titty. Oh, how you doing, little pink nipple? I like it. Oh.